What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
Hey, what's up, Fantasy Points and Flannelverse? We're doing a special Christmas edition of Outside the Box. I am here with Fantasy Points CEO, my good friend Scott Barrett, master of dank stats, looking fresh in that sweater. Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm Merry Christmas Eve.
Merry Christmas Eve. Yeah, how are you enjoying the holidays? I know it's chaotic, a lot of work around this time for you, but are you finding some enjoyment, some family time within all the chaos?
My wife is working today, and I'm working on the main slate breakdown. But yeah, hopefully we can spend some time together tomorrow. Watch Elf, Home Alone, Die Hard, Miracle on 34th Street, and It's a Wonderful Life. What about you?
Yeah, we not yet. So we have my brother is in town, his family from Michigan, where they live, and then my wife's sister lives in Saudi Arabia. She and her husband, he's in the military. They're in town. We haven't seen any of them yet. They've been in town for a few days. It's just been too chaotic for us. And yeah, my family got together on Monday, but I had to do the Monday Night Football breakdown, so have not seen our families yet, which has been kind of a bummer. We are immediately after the show though going out to see my family. And then we'll be hanging out with both of our families tomorrow. So we're gonna remedy it pretty soon. Yeah, excited to relax a little bit, spend some time with family, and of course play some DFS on Christmas. Are you gonna be playing some tomorrow, Scott?
Oh, of course. I mean, and this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to play Max Brosmer, Josh Johnson, or Chris Turducken on Christmas. So
yeah,
you got to do it.
That is true. You got to take advantage of this once in a lifetime opportunity. For anybody who is not familiar with Outside the Box, we do the show every Saturday. We're cross streaming to the Flannelverse and Fantasy Points. So maybe there are some Flannelverse members who don't know about Outside the Box. If you don't know about it, you should go check out the Fantasy Points YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, because we do this every Saturday throughout the NFL season for the main slate. This is just a one-off special edition for Christmas, where Scott and I are going to be going through position by position, starting with quarterbacks and running backs, receivers, tight ends, defenses, kickers. We will be first looking at the chalk, talking about whether we like the chalk, and then of course trying to find some galaxy brain plays from Scott, some Neil ass plays from Neil, etc. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by the way, please like the video and subscribe to both of our channels if you're not already subscribed. All right, Scott. Let's start with quarterback. Bo Nix is projected for 39% ownership against the Chiefs defense that, is maybe rotating in some younger guys. How are we feeling about Bo Nix?
How do you feel about this ownership projection?
Yeah, it seems way too high. I mean, just
yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. So I don't know what's going on. Shout out to our employees who are spending time with their families. I don't know if Chris and Jake put this projection in. Last I talked to Darren, he was kind of swamped with the holidays, so I don't think this is Darren. Looking around the industry, this Bo Nix projection looks high. What I'm seeing is just about 25% for Dak, Josh Johnson, and Nix, and then the other 25% spread out among the backup turn starters. So yeah, I'm seeing even ownership on Nix, Prescott, and Josh Johnson. I did not write up Nix as the best play of the slate. I think in a vacuum, if we're just looking in a vacuum, far and away optimal is Dak. Like, that's your cash quarterback, or Josh Johnson. Why? Because this is like an amazing matchup. And so the other two games on this slate look like very lopsided, non-competitive curb stompings. And so in this game, yeah, obviously it's Dak Prescott versus a third string quarterback in Josh Johnson. But these are easily the two worst defenses in the league this year. I'll send you a tweet here in the private chat. Maybe it's worth pulling up. But if you look at the worst defenses by fantasy points allowed per dropback, schedule adjusted passing fantasy points per game allowed, EPA per dropback allowed, adjusted net yards per attempt allowed, passer rating allowed, the worst and second worst teams are the Cowboys and the Commanders. So these are the worst defenses. I said this in the private chat if you wanted to pull it up right now. It doesn't look like you're showing anything through screen share, but yeah, awful defenses. So I really like this shootout potential. And you see this backed up by there you go. Yeah, easily, two worst defenses. So really should benefit the quarterbacks. I think this matters a lot for Dak Prescott, who's quietly had one of the toughest quarterback schedules this season. He's had twice as many top 12 defenses as bottom 12 defenses. And like I said, this is a nuts matchup for him. He also has really good upside. He's top 25 DraftKings fantasy points 5 times this year. Goff is next closest with 4. Bo Nix is next closest after that with 3. And then everyone else combined has 0. And so, maybe there's some concern over whether or not Washington can keep this competitive. But it's way less of a concern than, looking at Minnesota or Kansas City. There's also a narrative. I know we all love our narratives. There's a narrative. Prescott's only 4 yards shy of the league lead in passing yards. Cowboys quarterback has never led the league in passing yards. Maybe, that's some extra motivation to air it out. And so Dak Prescott, like I said, cash quarterback. But he's 6,900 and the other quarterback in this game is only 4,400. And as bad as the Commanders defense is, the Dallas defense is probably even worse, especially if Quinnen Williams is out this week. Last I heard, he's going to try and play. Doesn't seem like there's anything really substantive. And so, when I'm talking about Dallas is worse, Commanders are second worst, keep in mind that by schedule adjusted fantasy points per game allowed, Dallas is twice as bad as the next closest defense. And we just saw Justin Herbert. He was really struggling. He went 5 straight games without cracking 15 DraftKings fantasy points. And then he dropped 33.2 on the Cowboys. If you watch that game, you saw Lad McConkey wide open. You saw Quentin Johnson wide open. You saw just about everyone wide open on a high number of plays. And so who is Josh Johnson? I don't know anyone who's bounced around the league more than Josh Johnson. It feels like he's been on every team and he's been in the league like 25 years. So at least we know he's experienced. We don't have a huge sample on him. I think it's like 9 career starts. He did hit 300 passing yards in his last start. And so a few things are notable to me here. One is that when the Commanders downgraded from Jaden Daniels to Marcus Mariota, we really didn't see an efficiency decline. By fantasy points per dropback, Mariota ranks 6th best of 42 quarterbacks over the last 2 years in fantasy points per dropback. Jaden Daniels, interestingly, was 7th. So he was even a tiny bit better than Jaden Daniels. Of course, the Commanders weren't anywhere near as pass heavy with Mariota as they were with Jaden Daniels, and that's a concern. There's this quote that no one's talked about. This is from a couple of weeks ago, right after Jaden Daniels went down. Cliff Kingsbury, here's the quote. The running game has been the best thing we've done, so we've definitely got to lean on that. I've been really proud of Chris Rodriguez and his progress throughout the year. He's really playing at a high level right now, so that has to be how we win these games moving forward. And I think that really tells you, especially now down to a 3rd-string quarterback, what the Commanders want to do here is they want to lean extremely run heavy. And that is what we've seen from them. Since week 9, a minus 7.7% P-row. That's ahead of only the Miami Dolphins. And so that's the concern. I mean, I think if Dallas gets off to a hot start, it would make all the sense in the world to just totally abandon the run. But, that, like I said, minus 7.7 P-row. So like they're still being stubbornly run heavy. They're still kind of slowing pace down. And if Quinnen Williams is out, That's an even softer matchup on the ground. But yeah, to me, these are really, the best ways to go. And when you're talking about quarterbacks, you have to talk about the stacking appeal. I really like George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. It's really hard to pick between them. So I'm just going to chase the correlation and play both. Um, if you play around with our optimizer, right now, our top lineup, interestingly enough, is a Josh Johnson double with Terry McLaurin and Debo Samuel. I don't really like. I mean, they're both very cheap, surprisingly cheap. I don't really like McLaurin that much, but I don't know. That's an interesting angle, and I think that's, if I were only making two lineups, I think I would have one Dak team, one Josh Johnson team, and honestly, maybe Pickens and Lamb on both of them. Any thoughts on those two quarterbacks before we move to Bo Nix?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think Dak, like if the ownership is similar across the board, just give me all the Dak Prescott. Like that is just the easiest play, easiest click out there. Josh Johnson is one.
Yeah, but with Josh Johnson, you could pay up and afford, CeeDee Lamb and Pickens, whereas maybe
Yeah,
that's tougher to do with Dak. Or
it's true.
you can
We
add
don't have a ton
another
of value on this
superstar.
slate. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it is like if Josh Johnson, given the price tag, if he's within like 5 fantasy points of Dak Prescott, Bo Nix, all of them, like that could be, well enough that you can get all the stars in and it's easier to get through with Josh Johnson. So I don't hate the Josh Johnson play. I like, as I wrote up this slate, thinking about it for the first time, I was like, I might only play 3 quarterbacks on this slate. And then I changed my mind and decided that Josh Johnson is definitely viable. Just the matchup with Dallas is too good for this XFL legend. Yeah, no, I think Josh Johnson is very much in play. I don't know that he's like that I want that much more than the 11% he's getting, but I probably do want more than that of Josh Johnson. Like you said, where I guess I shouldn't use these ownership numbers because they don't seem to be
Yeah. I'll make sure those are more accurate after the show. Apologies for that, guys.
But like, so ownership that I'm seeing elsewhere has Josh Johnson as the second chalkiest quarterback on the slate. I don't think I like him to that extent. I think he's probably
I definitely do. I was kind of
he is
seeing,
okay.
I was kind of seeing it differently. Like I said, they were all kind of tied.
All right. So you like Josh Johnson as your second favorite. I guess you said you'd play one of each if you just play 2 lineups. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a reasonable take. Quarterback that I haven't heard you mention. I mean, you've kind of said like it's those 3 and then split between the other 3. Like Jared Goff is. We'll get to talking about Jared Goff, but sounds like you don't have a ton of interest in Jared Goff. And to me, it's like this Lions offense, just like is always good regardless of who they play. So I might have more interest there than you do. But yeah, I think to me, Dak Prescott is the clear top quarterback on the slate if he doesn't get way more ownership than everybody else. And then I think it's kind of close between Bo Nix, Jared Goff, and Josh Johnson is how I see it. How do you see it after the Commanders Cowboys quarterbacks?
Yeah, well, for Bo Nix and for Jared Goff, it's sort of the same argument or narrative that you need, and that's that, even if this is a non-competitive blowout, Sean Payton or Dan Campbell is going to keep his foot on the gas, looking for a statement game, really blow out the competition. And luckily, those are like the 2 perfect coaches to, do that. Historically, those are the 2 quarterbacks who, I mean, the 2 coaches where, like, even if there's 0 pushback at all, they're still going to run up the score and have their quarterback chucking touchdowns late in the game. I feel more comfortable in Nix doing that than Goff, but I don't necessarily dislike Goff. Nix, you look at the price tag, he's actually the best point per dollar quarterback just based on real results this year. Averages 19.9 DraftKings fantasy points per game. That's 3.3x a salary. That number has been even better over his last 4 games. You have Denver coming off of a loss. They're still playing for seeding. And like I said, Sean Payton has that long history of running up a score and just absolutely burying a team. I can list off a number of examples. I think the best one is last year against this same Chiefs team, but with Carson Wentz at quarterback. Denver won 38-0. They led 24-0 at halftime, and still they had a 9-7 pass to run ratio in the third quarter. Knicks had 321 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, 47 rushing yards, 36.5 DraftKings fantasy points. And so you look at this, it's a tough on paper matchup. It should be a totally non-competitive game. But as we saw, similar spot last year, the ceiling is still there for Knicks.
Yeah, I'm curious what you think of the matchup. And you say it's a difficult on paper matchup. We saw last week Kansas City. This is just according to ChatGPT. I was like, I didn't know how else to look it up, like how they changed, because they kind of talked about wanting to play some younger players. And according to ChatGPT, that actually happened. They rotated in, like they still played their stars on defense, but they did rotate in some younger players a little bit more than usual. Do you think that we continue to see that, where like Kansas City, just because they're out of it now, why not just like give your younger guys a shot, and maybe it's becomes a little bit of a better matchup?
Yeah, I think that's a strong narrative, but like even superseding that is just you have Chris Turducken at quarterback. Starting field position is going to be amazing every single drive. Like they might like be starting every drive in their own red zone. So that is, a massive cheat code for, if Denver just leans aggressively pass heavy inside the red zone in this game, that matters so much more than how talented this secondary might be, or the Kansas City pass rush. It's just a ton of scoring potential. And you see that with the implied point total as well. It's just, you could take the entire fourth quarter off, but yeah, like I said, it just doesn't have the same game environment. So you do need that, Sean Payton to be aggressive here, because it really could be the case that like this game is over in the first quarter and, Kansas City is really embarrassing themselves on offense.
Yeah. I'm inclined to just not play any of Chris Aludicon or Max Brosmer and just play the top 4 quarterbacks. Are you on the same page there? Or do you have any interest in Brosmer and what's actually been a decent matchup for quarterbacks against Detroit or Aludicon? Can you make a case for either of them?
No, that it's really just for ownership reasons, because no one else would be playing them. But yeah, I mean, remember how bad JJ McCarthy has been, and then Brosmer has been, considerably worse. Justin Jefferson had just 4 yards with him in his last start. He threw 4 interceptions, had 5 sacks. Yeah, so I don't like Brosmer. Oladukin, for those who don't know, he bounced around some small schools in college, FCS, Group of 5, was drafted in round 7 by the Steelers in 2022. Realistically, he might have been the worst quarterback on an NFL roster, and now he's starting. The one bright spot is Kansas City leaned extremely pass heavy. Even with him on the field, plus 12% P-row in the second half. It was a lot of screens to the running backs. I think only Xavier Worthy had more than 5 air yards. It was something like that. But yeah, I'm not touching them. And then Jared Goff, just to circle back on that. Yeah, this could very well be a statement game, and we know Dan Campbell is a big statement game guy. You saw that when he took over play calling duties and just totally stomped the Commanders, coming off of some disappointing outcomes and back-to-back losses. It's just that this is a worst possible matchup on paper. Brian Flores has really had Jared Goff's number over the years. It's a road game. I don't expect Brosmer to really push back. But yeah, we've just seen this before where, even, in spots where Detroit blows out the opposition and wins by 30 plus points, for some reason, like he's still throwing touchdowns into the fourth quarter. But like $200 more than Bo Nix, I just feel like the argument's easier to make for Nix. So yeah, if I could narrow down my pool, I would. It would be really just going heavy on the Dallas-Washington game, and then taking a few shots on a Bo Nix.
All right. Should we move on to running backs?
Sure.
All right. Chalk ownership, and again, I think this ownership looks more like you would expect. Jahmyr Gibbs 8,300 projected for 66% ownership. Again, has that matchup. That's a tough matchup with the Vikings, but we're kind of expecting them to just have the ball the entire game, right? Like Max Crosby's not going to sustain any drive, so it's probably just going to be Detroit's ball. Do we think it's Jahmyr Gibbs who's getting those carries late?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at 66%. That's I don't know. That's too low. Like, I want to lock in Jahmyr Gibbs. I know, like, let's say let's say he gets hurt on the first drive, right? Then you gain leverage off of uh, a huge advantage over 2/3 of the field. All right. So there's credence to fading it, but it's really just coming down to ownership. And in that instance, of course, you would play David Montgomery to gain that leverage. But like throwing out ownership is like, yeah, like this is the best play of the slate. Amazing volume since Dan Campbell took over play calling duties. 72% snap share, 7.9 targets per game, 29 fantasy points per game with highs of 58, 41, 37. Like that is just insane and just really just like buries anyone who doesn't have him. Really high implied point total, run funnel defense. So yeah, amazing play. Only argument against him is ownership. And if you're a contrarian player with, high risk tolerance, you're okay, losing 6 weeks to win big 1 week. Then yeah, maybe consider David Montgomery, who, has the same very favorable matchup. Dan Campbell keeps saying he wants Montgomery more involved. That hasn't happened at all. His usage is trending down, but it's also possible game script is impacting that. And this is a game with ideal game script for Montgomery. Again, run funnel matchup. And with that blowout potential, there's the chance that Montgomery gets the entire fourth quarter to himself. I don't know how valuable that is just because, they're probably just going to keep handing the ball off, not actually trying to, score touchdowns or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I could see 75 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. That's fine at that price tag. And then there's upside for more if, it's just, yeah. And with the leverage factor at 5%, I think Montgomery is very interesting.
I also think we always like this is very much a slate where we can talk about opportunity cost because there's not a ton. Like beyond Jahmyr Gibbs, it's like who are you confident is going to beat out David Montgomery on this slate? Because I don't have a ton of confidence. Javonte Williams kind of splitting carries the most recent game. RJ Harvey, I mean, maybe it's a little bit better of a matchup. He's been doing really well fantasy wise, but it's like feels like every week he's like 1 or 2 plays away from a dud. Isaiah Pacheco, you're not that enthusiastic about Aaron Jones. So like David Montgomery, he puts up 14 fantasy points. Like, would you be surprised at all if that is the best, the second best score, the best running back score on the slate? I would not be. So I would say that's a fairly strong play on a slate where we just don't have many like sure thing running backs. We've got Gibbs and then kind of nobody else, I would say. Would you disagree with that? Do you see anybody else as like a sure thing going to outscore 14 fantasy points?
No, I think that's a good call. Yeah. And there's worlds where, yeah, you could play them both to get together and get there. How are 5%? You think that's low or you think that's about right?
Seems low a lot as far as like actual ownership. My guess is that it's slightly low. Just because people aren't going to be that enthusiastic about other running backs. I would guess he comes in closer to like 10-12%, which to me, I would still want to be, I think, above weight on that. Yeah.
And then you have Javonte and RJ Harvey. I'll say Javonte's ownership seems high there. I get that he's a good value. I think I kind of like him most as leverage. So if you're not playing Dak Prescott or Josh Johnson, he's a great play. Ryan Heath and I kind of argued back and forth on Javonte on School of Scott, where I was arguing for him. I think he's very game script sensitive. And this is going to be a game where Dallas should win easily, and it's a good matchup. But Ryan pointed out that his usage has really declined of late. He did pick up a shoulder or neck injury 2 weeks ago, and then last week really unideal usage. And so he's worried we might see Javonte Williams load managed. And again, I didn't read as much into this, but that is a concern that it seems ownership is not factoring in. I still wouldn't play Malik Davis. I think Ryan could make an argument for him. And it does seem like one of your Neil-ass plays.
Yeah, big time.
And especially at this ownership, which is surprisingly high. You want to make the case for Malik Davis?
Yeah, I mean, he's just 4,300. I pulled up the bell cow report here. So this is the past 2 weeks. It's 24 carries for Javonte Williams to 16 for Malik Davis. Malik Davis actually more routes run over the past 2 weeks, 25%. They've each been targeted 3 times. I think last week they were actually separated by just 1 in terms of in terms of carries. I don't know if that was injury related. I guess I had not realized that Javonte picked up an injury in that game. But Malik Davis, 8 carries to Javonte's 9. Now Javonte did outsnap him pretty significantly. So it's, probably not something to read too much into, but like you said, this is just a game that we're not really expecting to be super competitive. Dallas should be able to take a lead, and then they might just turn the ball to Malik Davis instead of a banged up Javonte Williams. So in writing up this slate, I made the case for Javonte Williams as being a really strong play just because the matchup is so good. But yeah, I think for largest field contest, I think Malik Davis getting virtually zero ownership at 4,300 in a nice matchup. And he's looked pretty good to me in the Cowboys games that I've watched. I think that it's, you can make, and then obviously if anything happens to Javonte, just incredible contingent upside. So yeah, I think on a 3-game slate where we don't have a ton of opportunity costs, I actually think Malik Davis is a fairly strong play.
Yeah, I like Harvey more than Javonte straight up, like ignoring ownership. So I would be happy to take that ownership discount. Over his last 4 games, 14 carries, 4 targets, 87 yards from scrimmage, 19.2 fantasy points per game. He's demonstrated, excellent touchdown upside. Like I said, amazing starting field position, amazing game script. So this looks to be an excellent spot for Harvey, who I like more than Javonte straight up. And I don't know that this is a week where I'm clamoring to, or a slate where I'm clamoring to play 3 running backs. But yeah, expect to just about lock Gibbs in, have very heavy Harvey, underweight Javonte. And those are the 3 best running back plays of the slate. Then there's this big teardrop. You get to the Aaron Jones, Isaiah Pacheco, Chris Rodriguez tier. Oh, I had David Montgomery in that tier as well. But yeah, it's Aaron Jones. The argument is no Jordan Mason, so he should get the bulk of the work. But that said, he's scored more than 12 DraftKings fantasy points only once since week 2. Even if you combined him with Jordan Mason, they've combined to score more than 16.5 just 3 times over the last 12. So basically, like, even if you give him a big slice of the pie itself isn't very large. And then you're talking about bad game script and an 18-point implied point total. He's not someone I'm very excited to play at all. Isaiah Pacheco, now you're dropping down to a 12-point implied point total. So like no touchdown upside, but he has seen, like, if you went to the snap grid report, whatever it's called. Yeah. Pacheco's usage has climbed every week. Snap share, 27%, 33%, 46%, 72%. And then last week was really excellent. 73% of the backfield carries, 81% of the backfield XFP. He had a 29% target share. No other receiver on the team had more than 12.5%. So legitimately excellent usage for Isaiah Pacheco, who, missed all that time with injuries, seems to be back to full health, could be a PPR cheat code. But again, you're dealing with minimal touchdown upside, probably a lack of sustained drive. So lower play total. That's the concern with him. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not playing Brashard. diminished usage. And like I said, it was really Pacheco in that pass catching role, but also dominating as a runner. So it looked like just highest end bell cow usage. But again, we're talking about a 12-point implied point total. And then Chris Rodriguez, I read you that Cliff Kingsbury quote earlier. It seems like they want to be a run first offense that runs that run first offense through Chris Rodriguez. Rodriguez has no pass catching upside. He's so game script sensitive. He only has 2 catches on the year. He has been fairly productive these last 4 or 5, 6 games, despite all those games being losses. There's a world where if the Commanders win, Chris Rodriguez is like the best play of the slate. Unfortunately, Vegas is telling us that's almost impossible. And I think especially if Quinnen Williams sits out, there's still a world where he goes like 18 for 103 and 1. He gets the 3-point bonus, 0 catches. But still, to me, like looking at this running back slate, it's really Gibbs and then Harvey and then, I don't know, a teardrop to uncertainty. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like all of the lower owned guys better than you do in general, just like because they're getting such low ownership. And I think that there is a lot of uncertainty at the top. So I think I agree with you that Gibbs is the clear number 1, and then RJ Harvey and then Javonte Williams is kind of another tier. But then I like just if they're not going to get a ton of ownership, and right now Chris Rodriguez is not projected for a lot of ownership, given the matchup, if Quinnen Williams is out, I'm going to have some interest in Chris Rodriguez. I like Dave Montgomery quite a bit at 4,800. I should note Dave Montgomery questionable with an illness. We just got that update, which we knew that he was ill. I didn't know that he was still ill at this point and questionable to play. Malik Davis.
He's at home, blowing his nose and liking controversial passive aggressive things on Instagram.
That's true. I did see something about that. So that is a concern with Dave Montgomery. And I mean, if he's out, you just like Jahmyr Gibbs even better. But if Dave Montgomery plays, I think he's in play. Malik Davis, I think is in play. What about Brashard? Somebody brought up Rashee Rice placed on IR. I'm tempted by Brashard Smith just slightly at 4,100. Could he have a strong enough pass catching role that he's worth playing?
I mean, I don't think so. I'm not going to chase it. I would rather just gravitate towards that Pacheco bell cow role. But even then, I mean, we're talking about the worst quarterback ever and a team that has nothing to play for.
Yeah. Aaron Jones, with no Jordan Mason is like fine, but not, again, I'm not super enthusiastic about it just because of the matchup and the Max Brosmer at quarterback. Just like something wacky could happen. He's going to get enough usage that like a broken play could happen where Aaron Jones has a big one, but he's not like explosive. Like people think he's like an extremely explosive running back. You look at like his explosive run rate, it's like really low relative to Jordan Mason. So yeah, I think I'm largely in agreement with you. I think the place where maybe I differ somewhat is because, and maybe this is just a matter of I play the largest field tournaments and you play smaller field tournaments, but like for the largest fields, I'm like, yeah, I'm more interested in playing guys like Malik Davis and Chris Rodriguez and David Montgomery and Isaiah Pacheco. I don't even think I'm playing Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Let me look at that.
No, I didn't write him up, but some people might be wondering about the usage split. They might see that JCM had like 5 carries inside the 10-yard line last week. What I saw was JCM only played 2 drives and didn't play a single other drive. And the drive he had is just one that they went inside the 10-yard line. And so he got some of that work. But outside of that, it was really Chris Rodriguez kind of dominating snaps and carries. So I wouldn't play JCM.
Anybody else? Do you have any? I mean, any of the other like Denver running backs? Do you have Jaleel McLaughlin?
No, you would have to, because I embrace the chalk at running back. You're the one who comes up with RB2s to like.
Yeah, I mean, more so on these short slates too. Like this is short slates where it's like where there's not a ton of like sure thing at the top. So I think the barrier to entry could be low. But still, we just didn't get much usage out of Jaleel McLaughlin. Tyler Bidet, I don't think we really have to consider much at all. I guess he ran had 3 targets. No, I don't think I have a ton of interest in McLaughlin or Bidet. I would maybe slightly. I might have some in a 150 set of Jaleel McLaughlin and none of Tyler Bidet. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to have a ton of anybody else beyond the running backs we've talked about. Do you want to talk about wide receivers?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, moving on. Cortland Sutton at the top at 6,000. We have Pat Bryant out, and that's kind of an interesting talking point is who benefits from Pat Bryant out. I'm not sure if we think Cortland Sutton does, but he has a real NFL quarterback throwing in the ball. He's 6,000, projected for 50% ownership. How much interest do you have in Cortland Sutton?
Yeah, I think this is a tricky one. Looking at ownership from around the industry, he's nowhere near as high as we have him.
Okay.
And we also have him as the top, or click on fantasy points per dollar.
Okay. Number 3.
Yeah. So I didn't like him as much as Chris's projections, but it looks like Chris brought him down, perhaps at my behest. I do think like he deserves in the top 3, but before I complained, had him first, like top. And like I said, he's not going to be as chalky as we're projecting. I'll go in and update that tonight, but yeah, he's just on a bit of a heater. He's had double-digit targets in 3 straight games, averaging 19.3 fantasy points per game over his last 4. It's an elite schematic matchup. Cortland Sutton is top 5 among all wide receivers in fantasy points per route run against man coverage. Kansas City deploys man at a top 10 rate. Basically, I don't trust Sean Payton. Maybe use the target share report, the weekly grid view. I don't trust Sean Payton wide receivers. It seems like playing Russian roulette and musical chairs at the same time. But like, if you look at the numbers, it does seem like what happened was Troy Franklin supplanted him at some point, and then they had the bye and Troy Franklin disappeared. And so Sutton is back to his 2024 role. That is what it looks like. Again, like Sean Payton makes me nervous, but if that's right, and it does seem like that's right, then yeah, he's a great value. He has good touchdown upside, especially this week. And, you know, the matchup is working in his favor. So yeah, he's a good value. I didn't think he was the best wide receiver value of the slate, but luckily projections have changed that. I think, and I think he's still a cash wide receiver. I think Cortland Sutton and Debo are cash locks. But for tournaments, I think George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb really stand out to me. And maybe this is a cop out and I'm lazy, but because I'm having such a difficult time picking between them, I kind of just want to play both and lean into that correlation by also playing one of the quarterbacks from that game. And maybe you can help me pick between them. Maybe you can see something I'm not. But looking at the numbers, you'll see Lamb has hit 110 receiving yards in 6 games this year. He's only played in 10 full games. He's hit 110 yards in 3 of his last 4. But Pickens has been even hotter. Over their last 5 full games together, Pickens is averaging 21.6 fantasy points per game to Lamb's 16.3. Pickens has out-targeted Lamb in 3 of those 5 healthy games. Before that, Pickens hadn't done that once. And so, yeah, it's a top 5 matchup for both wide receivers. The schematic matchup is a tiny bit better for Pickens, but it's almost close to a wash. And so again, to me, it feels so difficult to pick between them, but I think they're positively correlated. And so I like that edge of just not messing around with the Jared Goffs, the Max Brosmers, the Chris Turduckens of the world, and leaning into that stack and prioritizing it over a Terry McLaurin and a whatever else. What do you think about that, Neil?
First of all, it continues to blow my mind that you're lumping in Jared Goff with Max Prosper and Chris Aludicon. Like, how is Jared Goff the third quarterback in that conversation instead of Josh Johnson?
It's because, dude, Brian Flores is a god.
He is awesome.
That defense is insanely good. He's owned Jared Goff over the years. It's a road game. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown, we don't know is fully healthy, dealing with this knee injury. And he's up against the worst offense. So there's like minimal pushback, but maybe I'm wrong. Like this is a slate where, on these, you're the short slate master. I'm not. I'm just breaking down the games. You're a better 3-game slate player than me by far. And so, is that overconfidence? Maybe that's something to lean into because, I don't know. You get it at a discount. You tell me, Neil. I need to defer to you.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that they have such a strong offense, and like you said, they'll continue to throw it even when they do get up a lot. That like, I do not consider Jared Goff in the same category as those other two, where it's like, it's difficult to see a world in which Max Brosmer or Chris Aludicon put up like 25 plus fantasy points. I don't think anybody will be surprised if Jared Goff does. Like, and wouldn't be surprised if he's the highest scoring quarterback on the slate. Again, I prefer Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott is the
leverage off of Jahmyr Gibbs.
You can play, or you can play him with Jahmyr Gibbs. Either way, you want to play that one. I think
2 weeks ago, I told Johnny my lineup, and I was like, do I play Jahmyr Gibbs on this Goff slot, or do I leave him off? He was like, oh, I would definitely leave him off. And I played it anyway. If I left him off, I would have won so much money. Money.
But on a 3-game slate, you need less from Jahmyr Gibbs, where it's easier for them to both hit together. But you can absolutely play him as leverage off of Jahmyr Gibbs if you want to, or you can just play him in a stack because Jahmyr Gibbs is so involved in the passing game. So I guess I have more interest in Goff than you do. But as far as the Cowboys go, no, I can't break the tie for you. I think it's totally reasonable to just play them both. Like if you're only playing a handful of lineups, you want to just do a Dak double. Like that makes a lot of sense to me. I think it's pretty likely that both of them hit big scores. They're the two best fantasy wide receivers, I think, on the slate. So yeah, that is a totally reasonable way to play it, I think. What about, everybody's been so excited about the Lions' 2 top receivers recently with J-Mo and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I get the impression that you're not as enthusiastic about that whole passing game. Does that carry over to Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown?
I just greatly prefer the Cowboys wide receivers personally. But you can certainly make an argument for them. Like they've been incredible, especially coinciding with Dan Campbell calling plays, but also the loss of Sam Laporta forcing more 3 wide receiver sets. St. Brown was just like the surest of sure things. He had at least 9 targets in 9 of his last 10 games. He was behind only Jamar Chase in XFP per game, behind only Puka Nacua in fantasy points per game over his last 12. He flopped last week, and like that's easy to forgive just because he's been so consistent. But my concern is this knee injury where you have Dan Campbell, who's a little bit too bullish when it comes to injuries historically, although St. Brown is like a legendary warrior who plays through anything and everything, doesn't see a drop off in target share at all. He had that ankle injury where people are like, oh, he's out for the rest of the year, didn't miss a snap, came back the next week with a 40% target share. You watch the Netflix show, there was that game where he had hand, foot, and mouth disease. His like hands were bleeding every time he caught the ball. Didn't matter, didn't come off the field. But yeah, we have this. We don't have a great update on it. It seems likely he's going to play, but he's still dealing with quote unquote a little irritation. You don't like to hear that. If he's seriously limited, and we might not know for sure.
He's questionable on the injury report, by the way, that just came out.
Oh, okay. Wow. So that's even more concerning for, again, a guy who plays through anything. Like, this is sort of like a George Kittle situation where, yeah, he's dealing with an injury, but he's not going to be in the injury report because it's George freaking Kittle. It's Amon-Ra. So I think you have to bump Jameson because of that. We saw Jameson in that Packers game without Amon-Ra be deployed as a true featured wide receiver one to great success. And regardless, I think Jameson's a really good play. Over his last 10 games, he's top 16.5 DraftKings fantasy points in 7, ceilings of 29.9, 29.4, 26.9, but the lows, very low, 0, 0, 12. And that's just sort of what you're getting with Jameson. I will say the volume has been a lot better. He's hit 9+ targets in 4 straight games. Didn't do that once across his first 12. But as we're talking about all of this, it is a worst possible matchup. Minnesota very stout against wide receivers. It's a little bit better for Amon-Ra in the slot, but it's still bad for both. And like I said, how much do you need to lean on them? And it's a run funnel matchup too. You know, if Gibbs breaks off a long touchdown and then Brosmer throws a pick 6, those are the first 2 drives. Like, how much do we really need to expect from a banged up Amon-Ra or Jameson Williams? That's my chief concern. But you tell me your thoughts.
I mean, I think that those are valid concerns, and I mean, it's ultimately going to come down to the ownership of the Lions. If Amon-Ra is out, which who names says Amon-Ra upgraded to probable on Underdog, but that's not like they don't have a probable designation on the injury report. I think that's just Underdog, maybe narrating a little bit. He's questionable on the actual injury report. So if he ends up sitting, then I think JMO will look better. And you can make the case that if Amon-Ra is limited, that just makes JMO look better. Also, maybe Amon-Ra is a decoy out there. But yeah, I think Amon-Ra getting a fair amount of ownership. I think that it is warranted. I don't like him as much as either of the Cowboys receivers, but I do think that he is like the 3rd best receiver play of the slate. And JMO, getting a little bit less ownership is a fun play also. Even if Amon-Ra is in, I think he's, a reasonable play if you want to play him in 40% of your lineup, something like that. I think that they have a good enough offense that even against this Vikings defense, they're going to score some points. We've seen them put up a ton of fantasy points, even in tough matchups before. Last week, we also was just kind of a fluky game. It seemed like against the Rams, or was it the Rams this week where they had like multiple would have been touchdowns to Amon-Ra that were called back due to penalty. So yeah, I think both are strong plays. Chris asks, is St. Brown a sit this week? Definitely not a sit in season long if he plays. Like I would assume. Would you agree with that, Scott?
No,
you're not sitting St. Brown.
No.
Okay. So yeah, I think I will play them mostly in stacks with Jared Goff. I think it makes sense to like stack up that whole like offense. That if you want to play JMO and or Amon-Ra St. Brown, it makes sense to just bet on what if they continue throwing the ball. So I have interest in doing some of that. All of some is a one-off also. I think like Amon-Ra is just he's the 3rd best wide receiver play on the slate. So yeah, I have interest. What about Isaac Tesla?
Yeah, I think he's a strong punt. I think if maybe my second favorite, and I would probably bump him up to favorite if Amon-Ra is out, or like, Schefter comes out and tweets like, he's going to give it his best shot, but might be on a snap count. Then Tesla would probably be my favorite punt wide receiver. And we have quite a few good punt wide receivers this week. And on a short slate, if one of them hits, that can really go a really long way for your lineup. He had a season high 7 targets last week. And this is a player who averages a touchdown every 2.4 catches. So good touchdown upside for this price tag. And that Packers game where St. Brown got hurt early, he had an 84% route share. That was one of just 2 games he's been over 60%. So I know Chris doesn't agree with the projections, but I like Tesla. Dude, also just the eye test, like he makes some sick catches.
Yeah. I mean,
That
like
means
you said,
something, which means
yeah,
it means I'm going to overplay him. That's what that
yeah.
means.
Highlight
Just like I
plays.
overplayed Brandon Lloyd throughout his career. Throwback.
Nice.
I don't know if you know who that is, but dude kind of sucked outside of like 1 or 2 seasons, but his highlight reel is better than Larry Fitzgerald's. It's crazy.
Was he on the 49ers or something? I feel like I like have vaguely
He was on the
associated.
Bears is what I
Yeah, okay.
most remember him, but
Yeah.
he might have been on the 49ers.
I'm sure I knew who he was at the time. I do not have the like memory of like decade past football players who are not like MVP or not MVP, but like stars in the league. Hall of Famers. Okay.
He has one 1,000-yard season in his career, but I'm telling you, pull up his highlight reel. It's sick.
I will later on. I'll pull it up.
A Christmas tradition at all of our family households is we gather around the computer to watch a 15-minute Brandon Lloyd highlight reel.
Of course, everybody does. Justin Jefferson to me is just a different tier, like much lower tier than the top 3. We just haven't really seen it with Max Brosmer. I mean, I'm guessing this ownership is wrong on Justin Jefferson, or do you have any interest in
I'm
playing?
guessing it's wrong. Yeah. That's just, I can't get there. Like, I get it that it's, he is a major regression candidate, a major. And like once upon a time, Kyle Pitts was the biggest regression candidate, and he's exploded these last 3 weeks. There is something to that you're due. But since week 10, he's averaging 7.4 fantasy points per game. That ranks 60th among wide receivers. That's tied with Jalen Naylor, who's only 3,200. Naylor, by the way, I think has more upside over the span. Naylor has highs of 23.4 and 19.5 fantasy points. Jefferson has highs of 14.5, 11.1. And so sure, he's top 6 in target share over that span. It just hasn't been worth nothing. And now you have Max Brosmer. Last Max Brosmer start, Jefferson had 4 receiving yards. In the second half last week, Brosmer had 52 total passing yards. So I personally can't get there. I'm not an MME bro like you, but I would just kind of pretend like Minnesota didn't exist this week and feel good about it.
Yeah, I'll probably play like 10%. Like I'll be under the field, I think, on Justin Jefferson, but just in case, to enjoy watching my Vikings, if they have a big game, to know that I also am not losing all the money because of it. I'll play a little bit of Justin Jefferson, but yeah, I think it's totally reasonable to just do exactly as you're saying.
I'm seeing this ownership elsewhere, which I can't believe is real.
Yeah, that seems.
I'm showing him above Jameson Williams on some sites, which would be so stupid.
Yeah, I can't imagine that that's right. Who else do we want to talk about? I mean,
we didn't talk about the Commanders, which are, if you sort by fantasy points per dollar, they are extremely cheap. Sure, they have a backup quarterback in our center. I think if you're playing Terry McLaurin, you're hoping he catches 1 or 2 deep balls, like he did quite often with Jaden Daniels last year. Or, maybe he randomly just has a 14 target game like he did in week 13. And then if you're playing Deebo Samuel, you're hoping he could be a sort of PPR cheat code where he's like, he has his typical role, but then he also gets like 70% of Zach Ertz's now vacated targets because they would routinely operate in the same level of the field. You do get a best possible matchup for both. That said, they both kind of suck this year. Deebo's top 13 fantasy points only once over his last 9 games. McLaurin has cleared 4 targets only 3 times all year. He's top 75 yards only once. I think they're both a little overrated based on our projections. But because how much I'm attacking this game, I do expect to have heavy Deebo exposure. I'm going to be lighter on Terry McLaurin, and I'm gonna have a good amount of, believe it or not, Treylon Burks.
I knew we were going with that. Is he your favorite value on the slate?
He's my favorite punt, and again, I do like a lot of these punts. I like Naylor; he has unique upside for the price. I like Tesla, especially if Amon-Ra's limited. But yeah, I like Treylon Burks. He had a season high 84% route share last week. He had a season high 5 targets last week. That was more than McLaurin, more than Deebo. There's a little bit of the backup connection with Josh Johnson, which I think matters. this was Josh Johnson's most targeted receiver last week as well. So 3,300. More than anything, it's just, my exposure to the quarterbacks, I feel like necessitates some Treylon Burks here. But yeah, I like that.
But he's looked pretty good to me too. And in Commanders games that I've watched, Treylon Burks, like he's made some awesome plays. He obviously has like the one highlight catch that everybody saw. I think he had one last week that was like an awesome grab that was called back due to penalty, but like he's been playing really well, making some plays. Love the usage for Treylon Burks. I think the other one that we really need to talk about is the Broncos, because as mentioned, Pat Bryant is out. We already talked about Courtland Sutton a bit. Who do you think benefits from Pat Bryant being out? Do we think is it just Courtland Sutton? Is it Troy Franklin? Does he get back to the role that he had before? I've seen a lot of people speculating that it could be Marvin Mims. Who do you think benefits from Pat Bryant being out on the Broncos?
Well, last time he was out, and he was out in what, week 15?
Yep.
It was Lil Jordan Humphrey who benefited.
Oh, you're right.
I'm not going to play Lil Jordan Humphrey, who was on the Giants just like 4 weeks ago. Our projections are assuming Sutton benefits, and I think that's probably right. But I do think Franklin's in play as a contrarian option, just because since the Week 12 bye, he's been an afterthought. But before that, he was incredible. He was the wide receiver one. He was running a route on 80% of the dropbacks. He had a 24% target share with Sutton down to 17%. He sort of flipped Sutton as the clear number one. And then it just dropped off after the bye. And like Pat Bryant's usage coincides with that. So maybe it just goes back to how things were before, and that's great for Franklin. Week 15, the Week 15 example kind of says no, but you never really know. So not a guy I'm going to play, but I did make the devil's advocate argument for him. If I were an MME guy, I would for sure have some exposure, because he could get there anyway, even if that thesis is wrong. But it seems like more like a Neil play, but I did give it the credit I think it deserves.
Yeah, no, I think that I had not noticed Lil Jordan Humphrey benefiting in week 15. I was just thinking like it's going to be Troy Franklin. Like that to me, like Troy Franklin seems like the obvious beneficiary to me, because again, it was like Troy Franklin declining as Pat Bryant was inclining past the bye week. So it was like, all right, probably just goes back to Troy Franklin. And also we had a like decent game last week from Troy Franklin, 5 targets. 71.4% route. I think he scored a touchdown in the game, or at least had like a really long play, like had a decent fantasy game. I kind of expect it to be Troy Franklin just taking back that role that he had prior to the bye. So he's the one that I have the most interest in at 5,000. But I like the shout of Lil Jordan Humphrey. I think that's like, you can play him in a large field MME set, throw him in there, and then hopefully run 60% of the routes. Do you have any interest in Marvin Mims?
I don't, but again, it's like Sean Payton, who just like, this happened last year, right? Where Mims randomly, he did nothing all year, then he randomly exploded as a featured wide receiver one in week 17, week 18 against the Chiefs. Had 154 yards, 4 touchdowns. But there's really no evidence to suggest like we should expect Mims to do anything.
Yeah. Any other wide receivers you want to talk about?
Well, we didn't talk about the Chiefs. We didn't talk about
Chiefs.
a single Chiefs player.
Yeah, and Rashee Rice is out, so that actually does make them potentially viable.
Does it, Neil?
I don't know. Do we need to play the Chiefs?
I think people are going to play Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
I would not, but I think people are going to do that. Xavier Worthy, Marquise Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Travis Kelce, all tied with a 12.5% target share last week. That's not good. Isaiah Pacheco was at 29%. Worthy had 48 air yards. Juju Smith-Schuster had 8 air yards. Hollywood Brown had 1 air yard. I'm not going to play any of them. You could play Juju just because he's 3,100 and he led the team in route share last week without Rashee Rice. But I don't like him as much as Tesla or some of the other punts we mentioned.
Yeah, I think I'm largely on the same page. Like maybe I'll sprinkle in these Chiefs, but like I don't have a ton of interest in any of them. Juju, I think the price tag makes him a better play. Hollywood, I guess, ran 61% of the routes. It's like sort of fine. But yeah, not a lot of interest there for me. I think we're on the same page. That Treylon Burks is probably my favorite of the like low owned value guys. All right, should we move on to tight end?
Keep an eye on if Jalen Tolbert and Jonathan Mingo are inactive, in addition to Ryan Flournoy. If just Tolbert or Mingo are out, Turpin would get a bump. I don't like him as much as Tesla or Burks or whatever, but just for the MME bros out there, just keep an eye on that.
Okay. All right, tight end. We have not the greatest tight end slate. We have obviously Tucker
This
Kraft.
can't be right. This can't be right.
I mean, TJ Hawkinson is out. Well, we know this is wrong because TJ Hawkinson has been ruled out.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the ownership here not worth paying attention to because TJ Hawkinson is going to be out. I don't know. I would guess that it's going to be. I actually don't. Jake Ferguson probably will be chalk. I guess that would be my guess.
Yeah, and he's
Commanders.
Yeah, he's definitely deserving of chalk status. I mean, he's just, it's a no-brainer. I know his usage and volume has come down significantly in recent weeks. I think that coincides with the George Pickens breakout, but also the Ryan Flournoy emergence. Doesn't look like Flournoy is going to play this week. Ferguson also picked up a calf injury in week 15, but looks like he's fine. So you can make some excuses for that, but like realistically, it's just the usage and volume, even if it's diminished, is a steal at 4,300, especially in this game environment, in comparison to like all these like scrub ass tight ends who suck. So yeah, easy cash tight end, if you're just trying to play the, good lineups, you could just lock them in. The argument against him is just, hey, one of these sub 3,500 tight ends gets lucky and falls into the end zone. And then maybe beats him at value, but just in a vacuum, Ferguson's for sure the best tight end play.
Yeah, 100% agree on that. Like he's the only one I have any confidence is going to score fantasy points. Like he's the only one that I'd be surprised if he scores under 4 fantasy points. Like I think every other tight end on the slate is like, yeah, they could just completely fail and it would not be surprising at all. Evan Ingram against the Chiefs, Travis Kelce, they're kind of the name brand tight ends. Do we have any interest in those two, or would you rather go off the board?
In Evan Ingram, you said, and Travis
Evan
Kelce?
Ingram, Travis Kelce, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ingram's the second best tight end, like for whatever that's worth. It's, he's a tier off of Ferguson. Doesn't really have much touchdown upside. Kind of comes off the field near the end zone. Doesn't get any red zone or end zone targets either, but 3,000's cheap. And, at least he's not catching passes from a backup quarterback. So there's that. Kelce, you have it's probably his final home game at Arrowhead Stadium. He's 93 receiving yards off of Jason Witten for second all time. So you have those narratives that people are going to talk about. It's a great matchup. Denver is really vulnerable to tight ends in recent weeks, but they're strong everywhere else. So it is a funnel spot. But yeah, I mean, like Chris Turducken's the quarterback who didn't target him once in the second half last week. They're really not. You question the motivation beyond, I don't know, Jason Witten's record. Yeah, I have a tough time going there personally.
Yeah, I mean, the hard thing is like there's nobody that I feel any confidence in beyond Ferguson, who is going to be chalky. I was noticing as I was looking through the weekly route share report, Shane Zylstra ran 65% of routes last week. He is 2,600, not getting a ton of ownership. Do we have any interest in Zylstra?
Yeah, he's also wide open on one play where Jared Goff badly missed him. Definitely running more routes than Anthony Ferkser, although targets are more similar. I think they're viable as an MME. and I like Zylstra a little bit more than Ferkser, but I don't like either one as much as Ben Sinnott.
Oh, you do? Okay. So Ben Sinnott, your guy over John Bates for the Commanders.
Yeah, well, he's another player who saw a big usage jump last week. Click on week 16. So yeah, 56%. He had a career high. I don't like Ben Sinnott. I've never been a Ben Sinnott guy. I'm not even sure he's a tight end and not a fullback. But like I said, he did see that route share jump. He is really cheap, and he does correlate with the quarterbacks I like this week. But still, it's a player who I don't think he's ever had more than one game with more than one reception in a game. So for sure thin. And then Josh Oliver, yeah, you don't trust the quarterback, but Hawkinson, I mean, Brusmer did target or did complete more passes to Hawkinson than any other wide receiver. So he's cheap, but he kind of just falls into that Sinnott Zylstra range for me.
Kind of pick your poison. Like I don't have a ton of, again, the only tight end that we have any confidence in is Jake Ferguson. I suspect that his ownership is going to be a ton as a result of that, just because everybody's going to be like, all right, I'm just going to play Jake Ferguson again. I don't necessarily think that's wrong though. Like I think just the matchup is really strong. They should score a lot of points. Ferguson is pretty likely to be the highest scoring tight end on the slate, but yeah, it'll be for a large field GPP. It's just mixing and matching the others. I don't have a really, really strong feeling about any beyond Ferguson. Before we get out of here, do you want to make any lineups?
Yeah, let's make some lineups.
Okay. All right, I've got it all ready to go. Do I want to start with that Dak double?
I want to start with a lineup I want to play around with that I think is close to optimal, and then maybe we can go farther off the wall after that.
Okay.
So what do you have in mind? I want to do Pickens, CD, Debo, Treylon with Josh Johnson.
Ooh.
Just because I think that's the only way we can afford to get Jahmyr Gibbs, who I also want.
All right, let's see. Plenty of money left for another running back, tight end.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
so do we need Ferguson? I guess is the only
good tight end.
Ferguson and Harvey. Does that fit?
Probably. Let's see. Yeah. Then we can play Lions defense against Brosmer.
Hell yeah, why not? Boom. Look at that.
Easy. Yeah.
That does look chalk,
but yeah, I mean that's we're doing this again. There we go. It worked. Okay.
Nice.
So again, that's Josh Johnson with Debo Samuel and Treylon Burks double stack. Then we've got a triple Cowboys bring back of CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, Jahmyr Gibbs with the Lions defense, RJ Harvey one off. Yeah, it looks like a nice lineup. Like even though it does look chalk, it looks like a lineup that is very live to win. And Treylon Burks actually not getting a ton of projected ownership, so maybe not even that chalky. Now what?
Now let's go crazy. Let's do whatever Neil wants. We did a Scott lineup.
I want to, because I know you're not going to do it in your other contest. Let's just make a Jared Goff lineup.
I appreciate you. Yeah. Looking out.
Let's get you covered in this. Let's do it without Amon-Ra and just assume that he is going to be limited or out for the game. And so I don't have to mess with it tomorrow. So I want to do JMO and Gibbs
and Zylstra.
Yeah, let's do Zylstra. I like that. And Zylstra. I don't think we need to do any Vikings bringbacks. In fact, I think we could even add on the Lions defense potentially, but let's hold off on that.
Let's do Harvey.
Okay.
And Broncos D. Or is
Yep.
that too expensive? That might be.
We'll see. We'll try it out.
Let's just hope that's our exposure to the entire game. Like Harvey just has 3 of the team's 4 touchdowns, and it's just a shutout. And then Debo and
we're only playing players who are on teams or have names that start with DE. That's our thing for this one. So keep that in mind.
I was going to say Pickett or CD because
Yeah,
for
we
the
can do
D.
that. Oh yeah, that works.
And then what do we have left over?
3,900 Marvin Mims, Khalif Raymond, Traylon Burks is there. If we leave 300, a little bit on the table, 600 on the table.
Tesla. You know what? I like Tesla more than Zylstra.
Okay. So we go Tesla.
He's going to get 1 touchdown for 46 yards, but you know what? It just works out.
Could do Ingram, Oliver.
Ingram. Let's play Ingram. Yeah. However you want, Ingram or Oliver.
I think that makes sense. Ingram is good. Yeah. So we've got Jared Goff stacked up with Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams and Isaac Tesla. We don't have any Vikings bringbacks. And then we have RJ Harvey with Evan Ingram and Broncos defense. Deebo Samuel as a little mini with CeeDee Lamb in there. Yeah, I think that's a nice lineup. Leaves 100 on the table. It's a strong one. Let's do you want to do one more?
Sure.
All right, we're gonna do one more and get to some holiday goodness.
Let's do a Oladukin lineup.
For real?
No.
Okay, good. Dak Prescott.
Yeah, Dak or Bo Nix. Dak.
Let's do the Dak double.
Yep. It could be a Dak triple.
It could be, Ferguson.
Yeah.
Let's do that. I do think Burks makes sense to save a little salary.
Yeah.
Maybe Javonte is limited and both Malik Davis and the passing game benefit.
Okay.
I mean, this is how we can get crazy. If you want to get crazy, we can play Malik Davis.
I was gonna say either that or a fade Gibbs play Monty.
Yeah, we could do that too. And then second bring back with Chris Rodriguez.
I don't see the upside. I'd rather play Harvey.
You love Harvey. Okay, we'll play Harvey. Who can we play? JMO. I mean, I guess we decide on a defense. Do we want to do a Monty with Lions?
Yeah.
Then we have 6,100 left over for Cortland Sutton.
Boom. Or, yeah, McLaurin for the correlation, but I kind of like Sutton more.
All right, let's roll with it. Dak Prescott with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and Jake Ferguson. We've got the bring back of Treylon Burks. Also have RJ Harvey and Cortland Sutton, and then Detroit defense paired up with David Montgomery. There you go. 100 left over. Easy game. We just made 3 lineups with good shots at winning $1 million. I don't know which one of them is going to win it, but one of them is going to win us $1 million on Christmas, and it's going to be a Christmas miracle, and we're all going to celebrate. All right, Scott, anything else before we get out of here?
Merry Christmas. We love you.
Merry
Hope
Christmas.
you guys all win a lot of money.
Yeah, let's all win some money. Let us know that you won some money. We always love hearing from you. Make sure if you could, please do like the video, and of course subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, you can use promo code OTB15 to get 15% off already reduced prices. Scott, I haven't done the read on the what's it called, the early bird special. What's going on with the early bird special? We should tell people about that.
Yeah, I wrote up the ad read, so let me read it. Subscribe now, and your subscription is good until March 31st, 2027. At the cheapest price will ever be, 20% off any subscription. We've done an early bird special every year since our founding. This is more for loyal subs than to attract new ones. You can upgrade for a more expensive sub, or you could just take advantage of this free 20% discount instead of just waiting for auto renew. You're not going to get double charged, so don't worry about that. And yeah, what is it, Christmas Eve, if you want to if your dad sucks at fantasy or he loves fantasy, you don't like the gift you got him, you can get him a Fantasy Point subscription for Christmas. You can just reach out to customer service. They can help get you set up there. And so, yeah, early bird special, fantasypoints.com. Check it out.
Check it out. Use OTB15 to get an additional 15% off. Yeah, well worth it. Make sure you check it out. As Huame says, Fantasy Points Data Suite is awesome. Yeah, I spend a lot of time in the Data Suite. Love that. Easy way to break down any kind of NFL data that you want to. Very useful for fantasy football. We're going to get out of here. Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays if you don't celebrate Christmas. Love you all. We will see you on Saturday. So we'll see you again very soon to break down the main slate on Saturday. Good luck.
Boom. What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.